Sorry everyone, it's not Wednesday. A few of you were expecting this video yesterday. Apologies, but it's Formula E. Come on, give me a bit of slack. Formula E is back this weekend, Friday and Saturday, so my focus is on that. I'm sorry. Anyway, you've still got your weekly mailbox. It's Thursday, so hey, we're all going to live, aren't we? If you're new around here and have no clue what I'm on about, the weekly mailbox is your weekly chance to ask me questions about absolutely anything. Though normally it's, it's motorsports based, and that is very much the agenda in today's episode. Next week, actually I will just say, put your comments in the comment section below as you always can. Twitter DM me, or most people like to do these days is send me a message on Instagram. So any of those ways you have a chance of being featured in the video, but not next week. No mailbox next week, as some of you worked out in last episode that next week is a very special episode, and of course there will be no weekly mailbox, there will be my special video. So I'll talk about that next week. But I think let's move on to question 1. This week's question 1 comes from Mr. or Mrs, to be fair, I'm not too sure, comes from Foggy. And it's a really interesting question, and one that I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments below. After Hamilton and Vettel retire, what do you think will be the next big rivalry? Now, I picked this one out, and I'm not sure if I will, but I think I'll make this the title question, because first of all, is Hamilton and Vettel the big rivalry that for a couple of years it was almost bubbling up to be, that fight for 5 that we were talking about? Vettel on 4, Hamilton on 4 a couple of years back. Hamilton then got his 5th, and going into this year, there were a few question marks whether Ferrari and Vettel would really be able to spring a challenge, but it never really materialised. And although Vettel and Hamilton, of course, across both of their careers have been fighting each other, it's never really reached boiling point that it did for Hamilton and Alonso, let's say, Senna and Prost, those kind of rivalries, Schumacher and almost everyone that Schumacher came up against. So even that I thought was interesting, whether, you want to consider Hamilton and Vettel one of the big Formula 1 rivalries, but still, I think there's a few brewing. And already, this weekend we saw it start to, over the course of 2019, we've seen Hamilton and Verstappen really start to come together, and the fights those two have been brilliant. Of course, this weekend in Brazil, we had that amazing fight in Hungary for the victory. Last year in Brazil was awesome as well. Bahrain this year, Bahrain last year. It's becoming a bit of a story between those two. And when we get to see them together, it's really special. And I definitely think Verstappen is one of those drivers not afraid to hold back. We saw in Brazil last year, of course, bit of a scrap with Esteban Ocon on and off the track. So I think Verstappen is definitely that key player, mainly down to his ability on track, but also his personality, which we all love so much. So I think it'll be Verstappen. But then the next question becomes, who with? Because, well, we answered or spoke about it last week. Is Verstappen going to be in the Red Bull? Is Red Bull going to be able to deliver him a car capable of winning? But who is that rivalry going to be with? I am enjoying the rivalries, obviously, having with Hamilton, but with Leclerc, I think that's really coming into something quite feisty and quite special. We've seen that on a few occasions in 2019. Wouldn't it be great if Ocon got back in the Mercedes and it was Verstappen versus Ocon? That would be really cool. He's quite buddy with the likes of Norris, Gasly, Albon. Obviously, that can change very quickly. So if I was going to put money on it, I think it would be Leclerc and Verstappen. But hey, maybe we could have a Formula 1 rivalry with 3 or 4 drivers. That would be brilliant. But yeah, I'm going to say Verstappen and Leclerc for that one. But really enjoyed that one. And let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Question 2 comes from a fellow Grosjean fan, Mr. Daniel Philpott. Not many of us Grosjean fans out there, so we got to stick together where we can. Do you think Pascal Verstappen can win a race in Season 6 of Formula E? Also, are you going to be doing some more open lobbies on Formula 1 2019? So double question there, but I'll allow it because quite a few people have been asking about the F1 open lobbies, because I don't think I've ever mentioned it on the channel. So I've done a few test runs so far. I'll answer that one first, and I'll talk about Pascal as his brilliant haircut and mustache pop up on screen. Open lobbies on F1. At the moment, it's not a regular kind of thing. I really enjoy doing them, but it's more when I've got a spare evening, a spare couple of hours. I'll throw it out on Twitter, and I'll say, look, open lobby time, let's go for it. But so far they've worked really well. Racing's been clean. So maybe next year I might do a little league or a few videos. I'm not too sure yet. Maybe over the winter I'll have a bit of a play with it. But I would definitely, yes, that is something that I've been asked for, people enjoyed, people are interested in. So yes, that answers that one. But Pascal Verlaine, to be honest with you, I think over half of the grid in Formula E this year could win a race. It really wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if there was a different winner in each race this season in Formula E. I think that when I was doing my predictions yesterday, I think the top 12 drivers could be champion. It's that close, and the talent is getting better and better each year. But I think Pascal's got a good chance. I definitely don't think he's got a car as good as an Audi, as good as a BMW and Nissan, but I think his abilities and that gutsy nature that Mahindra have, they always seem to be on the back foot early on, but always seem to just have enough. So I think he definitely can win in Season 6. Moving on to Joel Christensen. Will Valtteri keep his seat in 2021 for Mercedes? Valtteri Bottas, my guy, his consistency is really questionable sometimes. And it was only a few weeks ago we were discussing, could he be potential world champion next year, 2021, wherever. He then shows up to Brazil and is nowhere. Okay, he broke down at the end and we don't really know how early on that car was starting to lose power, and hey, that's excuses. That's neither here nor there. Because all weekend, he just wasn't on the pace, wasn't on the ball. Whether that's because he's already secured P2, I'm not too sure. Whether that's because he's out of the championship and he just wants, you know, a couple of races just to wind down the season, I don't really know. I think in terms of 2021, next year is going to be a massive game changer with Ocon coming back into Formula 1 with Renault. I believe he is still under contract with Mercedes. They haven't ever cleared that up. I've gone through multiple press releases from Renault, from Ocon's team and Mercedes, and they don't really mention whether he's still a Mercedes driver or not. And I will say, there is a hell of a lot of fake news out there about this, so please be careful. But there's been no official statements yet. So Ocon's back in F1. Russell's going to have another year in Formula 1 and will probably, I would imagine, warrant a move away from Williams after 2 years at Williams. Blimey, you wouldn't wish that on many people in their current state. So, look, if Hamilton retires, you're sensible to keep Bottas. If Hamilton doesn't, I think Valtteri's got to have a stellar year in 2020 to remain in that seat. But I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. MG asks a really cool question. This is one of the more unique questions that I've had on the weekly mailbox, but it put a smile on my face, and when I saw it, I had to answer this one, so thank you very much for this one. Which races do you believe is Grosjean's best ever drive in his Formula 1 career? Just to remind us what an exciting talent he used to be. That's the only issue I have there. It still is what it should be there. In all seriousness, yeah, for modern Formula 1 fans, you probably wouldn't believe it when I like to parade the statistic around that Grosjean's got more podiums than Leclerc. I mean, hey, you probably wouldn't even believe Grosjean's got 10 podiums. Such is the nature of some of his more questionable driving in the last couple of years. Although, I still believe that 2019 hasn't been as bad as people say. 2018, I'll give you that, but 2019, he's not been that awful. I don't think. Anyway, back to the question before I dig myself a bigger hole. Races that spring to mind straight away, of course, slightly biased opinion, Spa 2015. I always like to say this was the first ever race I actually went to and attended. What a race to go to. Lotus were awful in 2014, and 2015 wasn't much better. Wasn't much better at all. They show up to Spa with no money, on the edge of bankruptcy, and even with a grid penalty, was, I believe, qualified P4 and a grid penalty, still ended up on the podium. That was incredible. 2013 Japan also. I think it's definitely between those two. Japan led the majority of the Grand Prix, but just lost out to the Red Bull of Sebastian Vettel. And we know how good the Red Bull was in that year. That's really a solid drive. I think went underrated. But first couple for Haas as well. 2016, Australia and Bahrain also very good. And our final question from Jack. Audience question, audience participation. So if you're new around here, what we do, it's your chance to respond to me, give your answers, your feelings, but I also give you mine. So, who will be the most successful of the new drivers this season in Formula 1. So, out of our rookie group, our rookie boy band, who is going to go on to have the most success in their career? So, we have 4 drivers. We've got Lando Norris for McLaren, Georgie Russell at Williams, Antonio Giovinazzi at Alfa Romeo, and Alex Albon, who already is driving for one of the big 3 Formula 1 teams at Red Bull. So far, I mean, of course, you know, we only got one race left in the season, crikey. I try not to say that because it hurts my feelings too much, but we've got 1 race to go, and of course I'm going to do a video on this, but Rookie of the Year, I think, would go to Lando Norris. If I'm totally honest with you, I think he's been the more consistent over the entire season, has had more than his fair share of bad luck, but it's whether McLaren, this is quite topical considering they just got their podium, but it's whether they're going to really be able to put a challenge or whether Norris is going to have to move teams. I think that with Giovinazzi as well, but he's got a very clear route to Ferrari. If he does well next year and Vettel leaves, maybe he could jump straight into there. George Russell likewise at Mercedes, and Alex Albon, he's already in a place to do very well, but he's up against Max Verstappen, and I'm not too sure whether Alex is going to be able to reach those heights just yet. However, since he's been at Red Bull, he's scored very, very similar amount of points to Verstappen. Maybe, I'm not too sure if that statistic's changed after the weekend. So Verstappen may have more since Alex has joined now, because Verstappen won and Alex got none. But still, very, very close between the two of them. So I'm going to leave it up to you. I'm going to avoid it because it's just so hard to call. But yeah, I'm going to avoid it. It's a bit naughty from me, but it's too difficult, so I'm gonna make it you that's gonna be thrown under the bus in the comments. Thank you for watching. Oh, blimey. I hope you enjoyed. If you're new around here, feel free to subscribe for this utter nonsense that we have on this channel. But hey, if you enjoy it, that's all that matters. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you. Oh yeah, also, obviously again, just a quick reminder, next week, no video. There'll be a special video instead. Formula E this weekend on Friday and Saturday. Yeah, put your comments in, you know the drill. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.